Hello, sinners out on that dark road tonight. On the road, we're dealing with a scary movie, and we're gonna break it down for all you lost souls out on the road. Hey guys, welcome to
Break it down for
welcome to the third episode of the Dissectors podcast. This came a lot sooner than May 20th because I ended up not having to be anywhere today. But after this episode, unfortunately, there's going to be a bit of a hiatus for, I'd say, at least about 3 weeks, because these are the last weeks of high school for me, and I'm going to be graduating soon, and those weekends are probably going to be either at my dad's or preoccupied with something else, so there's that. And tonight we're going to be discussing a movie that myself, Nathan, and Xander, who both of them are here on the call tonight as guest stars, as well as Matthew, who, first order of business before we discuss the movie,
edginess
is, let me get on the screen the unfiltered photo here, has finished the Dissectors drawing. It looks great, and it looks really nice, and I thank you, Matthew. This is great. And then
you're welcome, buddy.
For this episode, I threw a bunch of shitty filters on it so to cover up the goodness of it. And this kind of came about earlier because Xander will specifically sometimes, like, he'll organize, like, we'll get into a Skype call where we're just chilling, and he was like, hey, let's watch a movie. And Nathan was there as well, so it was the three of us watching, the three of us participating. And
how long ago was that, you think?
Yeah, I was trying to think of that while I was talking. It was very shortly before I took up the idea of wanting. Well, not before I took up the idea, but before I set the podcast in motion. So it would have had to have been about at least 4 weeks ago, I want to say.
What? Wow, dude! I would have said like 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, honestly,
maybe 3, but 4. Wow.
I think it was 3 weeks ago. Actually, I think
it was during the week. So yeah, I was thinking in terms of weekends, but I do remember this was like a Thursday night, I think. And we had seen the trailer for this movie beforehand because I think it was after we watched VHS 2, was it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And we were big fans of the VHS movies, so the first 2 at least.
Yeah, no, they were great.
Yeah, and Xander introduced us to the trailer to this one, which was, and we were excited for it at the time. It was right after we watched VHS 2, and we were like, hey, this is made by the same people, or I think at least Radio Silence, and we were like, hey, that looks kind of okay. And then eventually a couple nights later, we finally got around to wanting to watch a movie, and we're like, hey, let's watch that Southbound movie we saw the trailer for. And yeah,
oops.
I don't know. We'll get more into that later. But second order of business, somebody that obviously isn't here, the elephant not in the room, co-host Stofferex. He was not here for kind of 2 reasons. One, he was, from last I heard, because I was away for a little bit before I joined the call. He wasn't feeling well, and it was I think it's like 5 a.m. for him over there right now, and he was really tired. And I guess he didn't want a repeat of episode 2 where he was up really late. And I respect that, honestly. I'm very happy he was able to do that night. Because, just like extra, I commend him a lot for last episode. Because I feel like thanks to the lack of research a lot of us didn't do, we would have been very screwed on being able to talk about those things without him being there. So, big thanks to him for helping us out there and just being a cool guy. And I say he deserves...
for going snoozeville on that. That was completely unintended. I just did not get any sleep the day prior, so I apologize.
I'm putting you on trial for sabotaging my show and deciding to sleep, because at least Stove had the decency to leave beforehand and go away.
I'm sorry.
But, at least he had the decency.
But I will take responsibility a little bit, because I feel like if I hadn't fucked up and like started recording 30 minutes later after that, I wasted all that footage. Maybe you would have been able to stay up, and Stove would have been less tired. So I'll take partial responsibility for that.
Yep, it's all right.
Yeah.
That's in the past, and we're on to now. this episode.
So, second thing I want to talk about before we start talking about the movie is I wanted to talk about this last time, but I guess
Well, I think this would be the third thing.
Oh, well, whatever. Whatever thing this is. I wanted to talk about this last time, but I think like because it was so late and I was so frustrated with the fact I wasted footage that I kind of just breezed past it. But we kind of figured out the format that we want this show to go in. And basically what we plan to do is we're going to have kind of 10 episode waves. And what that means is like for each 10 episodes that we do, each one of the 10 is going to have a certain theme to it. And let me pull up the doc while I'm thinking of the ones I remember off the back of my hand. The first episode of each wave is going to be about a creepypasta. In the case of this first one, it was Eyeless Jack. The second episode of each wave is going to be about sort of creepy lore of bigger non-horror series. Like, you know, Marvel and DC are obviously not horror in it of themselves. However, you know, we explore the sort of like the pushed off side of whatever the series is. And I can't really go more into that without spoiling what, you know, next wave's themes, but you'll understand when more of them come out. Third episode, which we're doing now, is going to be modern horror movies, where basically any horror movie in the last 10 years, which is more recent, we're going to cover and review after we watch it. As with Southbound, which was released in 2015. Fourth episodes are going to be about video games, whether it be indie or mainstream. Fifth episode, we're going to try and cover horror literature, books. And sixth episode are going to be a mix of TV shows and web series online. Seventh episodes are going to be about non-fictional horror. Eighth episodes are going to be about urban legends, myths, cryptids, sort of, you know, stuff from, it can range from ancient history, stuff that it constitutes horror, to, you know, modern urban legends. Ninth episode, I don't know. Currently what I have slated now is we're going to discuss horror anime, and I'm going to try and get my friend Jose and his girlfriend Lottie, who run the Animates podcast as well. Go check them out. I'm going to try and get those two on for those episodes, and I'm also going to need their help because I don't know of a ton of horror anime. I have like one or two down in this doc, but I don't know a ton more. So I'm going to need their help on getting more of those. And maybe down the line we can change that to like some other theme if we run out, because I don't really know of many. I've done a little bit of research into it, and I didn't find much more than like 5 or so.
I didn't found.
Brow.
You should do episode 10 should be live ghost hunts. Like in the podcast, you're doing like a EVP session.
As fun as that would be, like I don't really know.
It wouldn't work. It'd be stupid.
Yeah. I would, even if there are any around here, like I would quickly run out. Episode 10s are going to be about older horror movies, which are basically any movie that's not in the it doesn't fit in the category of episode 3, and it's older than 10 years. So yeah, and then each wave it goes back to one with creepypastas, and we continue from there. And
spoilers.
I didn't spoil anything, I don't think, unless I misspoke or something. But yeah, so that's all I pretty much wanted to get out of the way as far as like business shit. So yeah, let's talk about this movie. The first section of the movie is called, I think it's called The Way Out, right?
Yeah.
All right. I guess, yeah, you guys can kind of open with like what you've thought about that, what you thought about it.
Oh boy.
I need to have my memory jogged of that one, of the first one.
Actually,
I
yeah,
remember.
I can go down like kind of basic events of what I remember happened. So basically, the movie opens, and there's these two guys in a truck, and it's like nighttime, or it's really really early because the sun starts coming up as they're driving down the road, and they're all bloodied, and you don't really know why. And the guy's driving, he's like, "Fuck, fuck, fuck," and he's freaking out, and you don't really know what's going on. And they're driving down the road, and the guy in the passenger seat keeps looking over, and he's seeing like these far off things that you can't really decipher what they were. I remember when I was watching the movie, I kind of thought that they were like, I thought they were like moss on power lines at first. I didn't really know what they were.
Yeah, it didn't. It looked really weird, like not in a scary way, like it's supposed to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
It was a very awkward
just like I didn't know what it was.
Yeah. It was lacking atmosphere. It just sort of felt like a student film, to be honest. It didn't really have any substance to that short. Like, there was nothing special about it. You know, it was not a good way to open up your film. It was just really...
Yeah. So, and then, like, the sun comes up and it's daytime, and they drive past a sign that says Southbound, and then, you know, the numbers are rubbed off, you know, to kind of be the title sequence of the movie. And then they pull into this gas station, and they meet this girl who, you know, is just talking to them while one of them's in the bathroom. And they drive away from the gas station, but they keep coming back to it. Which, what confused me about that
They're in a
part
time warp.
Yeah. What confused me about that part was the fact that, like, they didn't seem to notice that they were pulling back up to the ap station until it would have been, like, so close.
Until they
that,
got
like,
there.
Yeah. Like, I didn't really
It's like, well,
understand,
where the hell were you before that? That you didn't realize you were...
like, how far... They didn't really explain very well how far away these repeated gas stations were. Like, they didn't seem to react to the fact that they had pulled up on the same gas station until, like, they were pretty much pulling into it, and they're like, wait a minute. And I was like,
it's like,
it's
when
an
you
open
have
desert. There was nothing. There would be nothing really obscuring that.
That was true. Yeah.
That's a really good point. I mean, I noticed that, but I've seen so many things like that. It didn't really occur to me that it's weird.
Weird. Yeah.
And I think eventually it comes to the point where, it came to the point where they finally stopped the truck, and the first guy gets out and they start yelling about, like, stuff that at the time we thought just, oh, this is the beginning of the movie. They're not going to explain everything because it needs twists, and we'll get more on that problem later. And eventually the things come out and they attack them, and they look like what I'm showing now. This is the scene where he attacks one of the men.
Oh, okay.
And, well, yeah. Side thing. We're on Discord now, so they can't really see what I'm showing. We did this because, frankly, the audio quality is a lot better. I was skeptical at first, but after I did a test recording, and even seeing on the OBS right now, the audio levels are a lot more cut and dry and cleaner.
Yeah.
Ew, Discord! Discord, add video chat soon, please.
Yeah, that pretty much would sell me, honestly. We'd be able to do this without a hitch at all.
Mm-hmm.
And, so yeah,
Speaking of hitch.
It attacks one of the men, and we see...
Oh, yeah, I'm looking at a picture of it.
Yeah. And, yeah, it tears off his jaw and shit. I think it looks...
That's good. You know what? That looks good. That's good.
It's a good effect, I'll admit.
Good makeup.
I feel like I would like this monster if they did it in a more, like, kind of... I don't know, the scary factor of it kind of got taken away from me for the simple fact that, like, they're in broad daylight. Like, I feel like this monster would be a lot creepier if, like, it was at night and they were having to deal with it, but it's just, I don't know.
I think they shouldn't have showed it up close. I think that's what really sold it as not a very realistic effect, because when it's far away, it can kind of sell, but when it's up close, it looks like...
But from far away, it looks like a wet rag with, like, seaweed on it, like on an invisible post.
Yeah.
It has sort of a, ominous, creepy factor to it, but when it gets up close, it just looks like a silly Halloween prop. Like, nothing really intimidating about it. And then,
it looks CGI.
Yeah, it looks really, really weird.
And see, this is the part of the movie. Like, I didn't really mind anything yet, but it when it got to this part, it kind of bugged me a little bit. So the first guy gets killed, and then I think the monsters, like, disappear. They, for some reason, don't touch the second guy.
I think they stare at him or something as he drives away. Remember, he's running away.
Yeah,
he's driving away quite fast.
Yeah, I apologize if, like, we're a little, like, rusty on some things. This was, like, many weeks ago. Debated on how long ago it was, but yeah, we wanted to do a reviewing, but I was out visiting family, and by the time I got back, it was too late to do a reviewing. So, there's that. So yeah, we are a little bit rusty, and some of us will forget some things. So apologies for that in advance. But
Mm-hmm.
so the second guy, I should probably like have the wiki article open so I can remember names just off the top of my head. But yeah, the second guy runs off, and he runs into like a motel by the side, and he just kind of like he sees this girl who is supposed to be his daughter, I guess, and I guess like it slowly starts turning into like his house or something, and he's running around in this loop trying to chase her down, and he runs into he runs in and out of it about 4 times until he starts freaking out, and then that's when the first section just kind of ends. Like,
well, and you say 4 times. I don't know. I think back to it, and I remember it being like too long. I was like, why do they keep going around? Like, I get it. He's in a loop. Can we move on?
Yeah,
that's how I felt about that.
Yeah, yeah. That scene, I had to see that scene 2 times because I actually stopped watching it the first time. I just kind of like gave up after that because I couldn't care. But when we had to rewatch it for this, I sat through it and maybe it'll be good. That scene still confuses me with the ending of the first segment. I still don't get it.
And due to the nature of the movie, we'll talk more on that at the end. But I guess just to say it now, yeah, they don't explain that at all. Like, I'm fine with leaving things up to interpretation, but this movie did it so much that, like, I couldn't get involved with it.
Yeah, and it was so vague that you couldn't, like any theory is like, oh yeah, you could point to that theory or point to that or point to that. But if you have more specific things, there's only so few theories.
There's a moment where it's less about leaving it for audience interpretation and more of you'd have to be literally in the director's mind to even understand a thing that's being said, and that's just not really fair for a film. You have to kind of making a movie. You have to think about the audience watching it.
You know what? Thank you, Xander. I was trying to say that exact thing, but I just couldn't get it out the right way.
And so yeah, that pretty much ends the first part, the way out. And yeah, now that I guess we can kind of conclusively talk about this first one just as a whole. Yeah, I agree pretty much with what we said when we opened this. I didn't like it as a way to open the movie because it felt too long to be an intro sequence. Like, this is a whole fifth of the movie that is
I was like,
if it was shorter and it was like if it kept its vagueness but it was shorter, that would be fine. But this is the whole first fifth of the movie, and it's just like it's structured in a vague like sort of intro way that it doesn't set up anything in the movie until the 5th part, which we'll get to later. Like, the other 3 don't really have much to do with this part, so you kind of forget about it. And it was a little
what was even the climax of the movie?
Oh yeah, that climax, quote unquote.
Yeah, we'll get more on that.
What even was the climax? I don't even.
We'll get to that.
Well, it was definitely the 5th one because the middle 3 are kind of like, well, they're not the middle 3 like the middle 3 link together, kind of. Well, no, I don't know. The first one and the 5th one linked together. The second and third one linked together, but the 4th one, I'll talk more on the 4th one later. But
we're already talking about it overall.
Talk about anything. Like, it didn't really link to anything else, but yeah. So speaking on the second part of the movie, it's called Siren. This one opens with girls coming out of like a motel that's neighboring the one that the motel room that's neighboring the one the first guy goes into from the first segment. And
I did like how they transitioned each segment. They kind of had the camera like pan over to another person, and it's like, okay, now you're watching their life.
It was cool. It was a clever comment.
I don't have any complaints about that. I like that. But yeah, we meet Sadie, Ava, and Kim, and basically they're in a band and they're traveling across the desert for some reason or another, and they get into their van and they drive for a little bit. We meet them for a little bit. They talk back and forth, nothing, just setting them up a little bit, which already was a lot. It felt a lot better than the first section where like we're just kind of thrown in with Mitch and Jack here. and there's just nothing. Like, we don't know what's going on. They're talking about things we don't understand. There's things going on around them that like we don't understand. And it went on for so long. At least with these characters, like, it sets them up a little bit. This felt like kind of what the movie should have just opened with.
Yeah. Much better opening.
Although, but then the ending wouldn't have,
Yeah, I was gonna say, like,
Kinda
it
needed
made
that
sense
beginning.
for the. Hang on, you guys talk on this for a little bit. I'm gonna grab my pop filter. Hold on.
All right.
I think they could have just had the beginning and the end, really, because of what happens, at the end. But the middle three, like, why did those even happen?
They didn't feel like they had much of a purpose, did they? It was just sort of like, especially the third one. And when we get to the third one, the accident, the hospital one, man, I have a lot to say about that one. But yeah, with Siren, I gotta say, when I saw the clips for the second segment, and I knew it was for the second segment, when I saw it in the trailer, that was the segment I was actually the most excited for. It looked the most creepiest.
Mm-hmm.
It looked like had the best atmosphere of the 5. But again, it was just one of those things where it's like I watched it and there's nothing really especially disturbing about it like I thought there would be. It was just sort of a letdown. It wasn't the worst by any means, but it definitely was a disappointment.
Yeah, absolutely.
True.
True.
Hold up, I'm putting it on now. What did you guys talk about?
I'm just saying, while it isn't the worst segment by any means, it also was probably the biggest letdown because I was really excited for it when I saw the clips for it in the trailer because it actually looked like it had a lot of atmosphere to it. But
This
it
one
just
was probably my second favorite, definitely.
that too.
So yeah, their RV breaks down and they're kind of squabbling back and forth for a little bit until the second car pulls up. And, we meet these two characters who seem nice and jovial at first, but obviously due to the nature of it being a horror movie, we know that there's something up with them. And I remember at the time, I just immediately jumped to cannibal, because I tend to do that with these types of
I remember you
characters.
said that, and I was like, you know what? The way that the vibes are coming off of them, like the way they're talking to these girls, like they could be cannibalists. I saw it.
Yeah.
And
Might have been too obvious, though.
yeah, I don't know. I was torn between thinking that and thinking, like, is that too obvious, or I don't know. But
Xander did call what it actually is early, and you'll get to that.
It's a cult. And then you
does that sound annoying?
stop spitting on me. Nah, it sounds fine. No pops. Pops.
So yeah, they take them to their home, and let's see. Let me brush up real quick because I know the basic events, but I'm trying to remember what leads to what here. Inside the bed, shown to them. Yeah, so they're invited to spend the night in this house that conveniently has like 3 beds ready for them. And
Yeah.
I don't know. I can't remember if they raise an eyebrow about that or they just let it go or what. But to me, that would have like been a little bit suspect. But yeah, and then for dinner they have this weird meat, and I can't really remember what exactly is wrong with it. Like, I know it's shaped weird, but
Wait,
I think it looked burnt too, or something.
It
It just looked like unprepared meatloaf.
no, it says on the Wikipedia that it's a burnt meatloaf.
Oh,
burnt. Yeah, it is burnt.
oh,
It looked like meatloaf.
huh, weird. I don't know.
A black
They acted a lot weirder about it than if it was just burnt meatloaf, like, or at least one character did, I think.
Yeah, I
Because it was
noticed
at this-
that. They're like,
It was at this whole point that, like, there starts to become a divide between the one girl and the other 2 girls, and it obviously is setting up who's
Yep.
the
One
main
of them is
character
a-
of the 3.
One of them is a vegetarian. And
Yeah.
Oh,
the
yeah.
vegetarian refuses to eat it just because it's meat, and that's...
Well,
Actually, thinking about it now, I think that's yeah. Never mind. I could be wrong. I think that's
no.
um,
I do remember like there was somebody that was like acting like it was a human head, and I was like, it just burnt meatloaf.
Thing weird about it is because I think like it wasn't because they like put something in the meatloaf that made them pass out. It was like probably like a sleeping medication, something.
No,
Because
I
like
don't
after
really explain that either. Like, what exactly?
after they ate it back, they kind of got all like kind of droozy and then they fell asleep. I think the meatloaf
wasn't-
probably.
It wasn't just that they got drowsy. They started being like hypnotized and shit, and like
Yeah,
Oh yeah, and they
it's
walked
also-
blaming the girl for killing Alex. Did you talk about Alex yet?
It's
no, I have
truth
not.
serum.
And this short's problem as far as it goes of being vague. We hear about this Alex girl, and we understand that she was the fourth member of their little like group.
Group of friends,
We
yeah.
understand that she died somehow, or at least it's inferred that she died. And one of them, I don't know which one, tells Sadie. Okay, Sadie's the vegetarian main character. One of the girls tells Sadie, like, oh, because you were having sex with this old man, she died. That's about as much explanation as we get as to what happened to this fourth girl or why it's relevant. They don't explain what happened. They don't explain, like, why she was so relevant. Because she's so relevant because, like, the first thing that tips Sadie off that something's amiss about this family is, like, they say, like, oh, I thought, where's, what's her name? Friendly economic couple. I don't know. They start talking about this fourth girl, Alex. That's her name. They start talking about Alex, and it's like, oh, where's Alex? And then like the Sadie gets very concerned while the other two don't even notice it.
Yeah.
And yeah, they don't explain like why this girl was relevant or like why. I don't know.
You know what? That actually leads to my biggest problem I believe I have with this movie, the lack of character development.
Oh, absolutely.
Here's the thing, and actually, no, a lot of horror movies suffer this problem when you have a lack of character development. Because with a horror movie, you're relying on the characters for you to feel something. Because how can you really be scared by the movie that much if you don't have any like real feeling for the characters going through this torment and horror? Like, you should probably have a connection with the characters before you have bad things happen to them. Because in Southbound, they never really built it up where I needed to care about them. They just sort of die, and that's all. It's like, okay, great. Next segment.
Yeah. I don't know. That I kind of felt similar. And then so they eat the meatloaf and they start acting funny, and then the two girls who ate it start like puking up. Oh yeah, we also meet a bunch of other random like creepy people at this table because
the two twin brothers.
Yeah, the twins, and there's this old guy with glasses, and they start they do this weird prayer. I can't remember how it's weird exactly, but there's something up with it. And
the twins seem the most out of place, like the most
absolutely.
Tell us anything about them. There's nothing to learn about them. They're just there and they look creepy. Like, cool.
I guess it's not exactly that bugged me about that. It's just the fact that, like, how do I word this? There was no reason for them to be there other than the creepy twin trope, because the twist. I'll go ahead and say it, I guess, since we're just discussing it as a whole. Because the twist is like, obviously they're in like, I don't know if it's satanic, but they're in like a weird cult that they're trying to indoctrinate the three girls into, and they succeed with the two girls that aren't Sadie. And where was I going with that? Yeah, and the twins are just like random members of the cult. Like, there was no real reason to make them twins at all. They could have just been two extra members. And yeah, like, Sadie tries to go to bed in this house after like the weird conversation about Alex that doesn't lead anywhere. And yeah, like the other two girls walk off, and like she wakes up in the night and they're gone. So she goes to follow them, and yeah, she finds them with all the other people huddled around a fire, and they're doing these weird chants, and I think like one of the guys brings out like a bowl of blood or something, or let me look up what happens.
Wait, can I say something?
Oh yeah, go ahead while I'm looking for this.
You know, it actually, no, now that you're kind of like explaining in detail, it really makes me wonder, like, since, you know, from the big theory that this is a film about, you know, the afterlife, purgatory, they're reliving the horrors that they went through, I guess, before they died. It's like, then wait, if I understand what happened and like why they're suffering this hell, what does a cult have to do with these four girls? Well, you know, three girls technically. What does a cult have to do with that?
I don't know. Like,
there's no.
Actually, I'll say this first and foremost. I'm not a movie critic. Usually it doesn't. I don't think about movies too much. I enjoy them at face value, and this one even was not that bad. Like, as far as wise, but it's just I'm just like, I don't know. I'm talking from a perspective of like what I personally found to be weird, and the point of this being, I acknowledge maybe I misunderstand something, or maybe I didn't understand something that was explained to me. So, you know, just take what we say with a grain of salt. We're not movie critics or anything. These are just things we had problems with. So if it was explained, then fine. But, you know, I guess evidently it wasn't explained well enough for us, which is the problem.
Yeah, we're clearly all talking like we didn't like the movie, but you know, the more we sort of dissect it, I'm like, okay, I kind of like, yeah, not a lot of this makes sense. It's not your stereotypical movie with a full-on plot throughout the whole movie. Like, it's definitely, you know, a bunch of different little stories that, I don't know, like you said, there's probably something deeper to it that we just don't know.
See, that's actually an interesting point.
And I appreciate that style. It's just not what I typically like in a movie.
I'll explain like how I personally think this would have been made better later on.
It's like, you're right. Like the way that the story is structured, it's not stereotypical. It's actually very original how it is. Although, in my opinion, I don't really see it as a good thing entirely for at least how they played it out. But like, that's the thing, though. I do find the way that like they try to intertwine the horror into the story very cliche. Like, I could honestly see every scare happen. Like, I didn't get scared once because I knew every time something was going to jump out or something was going to get eaten or something. You know, I just sort of know when it's going to happen. It was very predictable. But yeah, the story, I guess.
Before.
The structure. No, I mean, no, I didn't see anything past the first segment, but.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I thought you were completely blind, but yeah, if it's just the first segment, which we already said was kind of like detached from everything except the fifth one, that doesn't really. Like...
Yeah.
But yeah, so yeah, the cultists find her after she like trips over the bear trap that she saw in the car earlier, and you know, they chase her down and she runs out into the road, and she gets hit by a car, which starts.
Which then leads to segment 3.
This one personally. Well, I'll just do the synopsis before I talk about it. So basically, the third story then leads to transitions to the guy driving the car that hits Sadie, and his name is Lucas, and he's basically this guy who's talking on the phone with his wife, and the whole point of this story is that like throughout the whole story he has his earbuds in and he's on his phone, and it's sort of also told through the fact of, you know, he's since this segment he doesn't really have anyone else to bounce off to and talk to. This is how like the dialogue of this segment goes. And yeah, he's talking to his wife when he hits Sadie in the road, and he gets out and he's freaking out, and he calls 911. He hangs up on his wife, and 911 operator picks up, and he's talking about how he just hit her and shit, and she's like twitching on the ground and acting really weird. And
also the weirdest 911 call.
Oh
ever.
yeah.
Yeah, I'll get to that in a second. And yeah, so he picks her up and he's trying to help her the best he can. He puts her in the car, and then I think that was the first sign that something was a little bit awry with this 911 operator, because like from what I understand about accidents like that, you really don't want to move the person.
Yeah.
So I was kind of like, oh, that's weird. And yeah, at the time I kind of thought like they overlooked that in the movie, but then eventually it gets explained later. But yeah, he puts her in the car and drives her into the town, into the main town where most of this story takes place. I think it's the same town that Sadie and her friends like drove away from in the second segment, and the same one that Jack and Mitch drive to in the first one. So he drives into town, and it's pretty much a ghost town. There's nobody around that he can see. So he runs into the clinic as directed to by the 911 operator.
Yeah, the 911 operator like takes him through this whole journey of like getting to the place, and I don't know, it's weird.
Mm-hmm. Hold on.
Yeah.
That wouldn't happen in real life.
Yeah, that's something I guess the that segment did do. I honestly did not like that segment. Honestly, I liked the second one a little better than that one. But the 911
he's not over yet. He's still talking about it.
Gonna talk about the 911 part,
I had to
yeah,
take a sip of drink. And so he gets into the clinic and he's holding her on his arms, and she's like continuing to twitch and shit. And he sets her on the operating table after he can't find anyone in the hospital. Like it's completely It's completely dark. There's no one around. He can't get a hold of anybody.
It's abandoned.
Yeah, it's abandoned. And the people,
Mhm.
all of a sudden, the second voice comes on, or I think it might have been the third voice. I can't remember. But yeah, at this point, there's now 3 people talking to him through the 911 operator like system, and they're quote unquote directing him how to like operate on her to ensure that she lives. And the next couple of minutes of the movie are basically this like gore cringe fest where it like there's disgusting sound effects and stuff and showing close up as he like takes a scalpel and he like cuts open her side. He shoves a tube down her throat, and you know he
Doesn't he
reaches
like cut?
inside-
Like,
Doesn't he like cut her chest open, her stomach open, and put his hand in there or something?
Yeah, he cuts like the side of her stomach open and Lucas puts his hand in Sadie's stomach and like is told to physically grab the lung and squeeze it to keep her breathing, and well, it kills her. And then this part I actually liked. I guess Xander, like, I guess he said it was predictable, so I don't know if he meant this part as well. The part I really liked about this one was the fact that all of a sudden these 911 operators who have pretty much sounded pretty professional and normal so far, if not giving weird directions, like all of a sudden you hear them like cackling in the background, and they're like, you know, they completely turn from normal to obviously very evil. And you know, we found out they intentionally had Lucas kill this girl.
That honestly gave me goosebumps a little bit. Yeah,
No.
that was.
Oh, don't get me wrong. I know I say that the movie is very predictable, but I will admit the 911 aspect with the caller being possibly a person from the other side, you know, just trying to like torment him. That was a good twist. I'm not gonna lie. That was a very interesting inclusion.
Thinking about it, actually, thinking about even the next 2 segments, and I was already talking in comparison to the previous 3. I think, yeah, that, like, you know, another reason I like this segment the most, I think, is because, like, yeah, I think that's the most, like, that's the best twist this movie had, honestly.
Yeah,
as far as
like the freakiest
I didn't
thing.
expect that, and yeah, it was freaky, and it was original as far as I can remember. I can't really remember anything else like that. So yeah, personally, I really like that one. This third segment as a whole really rung out to me. And yeah, so Lucas starts trying to desperately get out of the hospital that he randomly, you know, it shuts off after he kills Sadie and he can't get out. And he sits down, kind of defeated. And the 911, or I guess you can call them ghosts at this point, or specters or whatever. Well, actually, no. There was one problem I had with it, but it's more of a problem with the 4th segment, so I'll just get into that when it comes. And the operators like start talking to him like really personally, like, and Lucas is he's kind of talking to himself, but it's evident he's also talking to like them too. He's like, "Oh, I tried. Why are you doing this to me? I tried my best to help her," and I guess the spirits kind of reconsider, and they start telling him like they start reassuring him of like, you know what? Yeah, actually, it wasn't your fault. And they unlock the doors, and he goes out, and he gets a change of clothes that is laid out for him, and he gets the same
A brand new car.
Yeah, the brand new car, but it's the same like style and everything as his old one. And they tell him to just drive away and forget everything, and he complies and he drives off. Now,
Well, at first he doesn't believe it. He's like, "Wait, you can't just be letting me off the hook." But he's like, "Yep, they let him back."
the way I interpreted the ending for this one was, and this isn't my original like thought process. I kind of like somewhat thought this, but then like I heard other people talk about this, and I kind of agree. And I think this was meant to kind of represent like my theory is that, or the theory that I've read that I agree with the most as far as this segment goes, is Lucas had actually been through this ordeal multiple times, like with the other stories, like it's in a loop, and he had run her over multiple times that night. But this was the time with a different outcome where he did everything to help her, whereas like before maybe he like hit her and then he tried to run, or he hit her and then like I don't know, tried to selfishly do something. But this was the outcome where he did everything in his power to help her, you know, unbeknownst to him.
And
they let him out of purgatory because he did what he did. He did his best, and they just let him go. What I think would have hit, like maybe if the movie wanted to go a different route, what I think they should have done is, as Lucas is driving away, like he goes, he obviously at the end of the scene he's very panicked and he's very shook and he's breathing hard and he's like, you know, when he sees his wife calling him again, he looks kind of like, you know, he's unsure. What I think would have been kind of cool, maybe, if they wanted to go like more for like a less happy ending for him, is have him sitting there breathing really hard and panicked, and then all of a sudden he just shuts off and he's completely calm again, and then he's talking to his wife and he starts saying the same thing to her again, insinuating that like he continue going on the loop that he keeps forgetting about, where he'd get a new car, new clothes again, and that's why he's clean.
Well, no, I'm thinking the deeper meaning of this is that sometimes in life you do get a second chance.
Yeah,
you know,
that's
like I think it was like he kind of
definitely felt like the happy break in the middle, like that little middle break.
Like I think what happened was when he got in the accident, he died, and then we were kind of watching like the afterlife, and he ended up going to hell, but they gave him a second chance and they revived him. Something like that.
I should have been like. He like was able to escape the hospital and he runs out of the hospital and then he gets run over and the same thing happens to the person that runs him over. I don't know.
Maybe
I could actually see that.
Well, no, that wouldn't have really worked because like it would have worked if like we didn't know the person he ran into, like it was just a random person. But the issue with Matthew's theory is the fact that like we kind of knew Sadie from the second segment and knew she was doing something else, so it'd be kind of weird for like her to go off and then this happens to her, but then like randomly it starts a cycle of like, you know, just because this guy hit somebody, all of a sudden he has to be hit.
True.
So, I don't really agree with that one, but yeah, that definitely, like I said, that's my favorite part of the movie. I feel like it had the best like twist to it. It had the best sort of idea to it.
Mm-hmm.
And this next part, I think, was maybe my least favorite.
Oh yeah, this one was weird.
What is it called? Jailbreak.
It's called Jailbreak.
This one's so stupid.
This one was just so. It felt very trite.
Like, why are we even talking about it? Let's just skip it. The movie still makes as much sense.
So yeah, this is the point where we come to like my only complaint with episode 3, which was more so just this one's fault. Is this opens with Lucas driving off and some girl, I guess her name's Sandy, and it reveals that she's the one who was like the 911 operator. And
dispatcher.
My only well, whatever, yeah, dispatcher. And my problem with that is like, okay, if she was the dispatcher, like, one, who are the other two guys? And two, for like the rest of this segment that she's relevant in it, she doesn't discuss what just happened. She doesn't explain like who she is. This is probably like, I don't know, the fifth one is pretty bad in its vagueness, and I'd almost say it's worse due to the fact that it's supposed to be the end of the movie where everything's supposed to come together and it doesn't. But this one, just in and of itself in this story, everything is vague. Like, the vagueness problems that the last three had were kind of bad, but this one is horrible when it comes to its vagueness. Like, we get the idea, like, we meet these three people in this bar who just start... I remember I complained about this at the time. They start talking about how the door is ajar. And they go on about this for like 5 minutes.
No.
when it doesn't have any relevance to anything. And I remember even at the time, like even before I had a chance to like think it over in my head, it annoyed me. I was like, why are we still talking about this door?
Well, I think the vagueness is intended in this, but yeah, like it didn't work. Like I didn't see the point of it because it was too vague.
It's like they started it off, and it's like when she gets into the bar, it's like, this is an interesting location. This could have maybe some metaphors or something about like afterlife or whatever. And okay, it looks cool. Okay, they're talking, then someone pulls out a fucking shotgun and then shoots a guy's hand off. It's like,
by the end of it, you didn't even remember she was the dispatcher from the last one because it's like, what the hell?
It's so distracting. Like they were just trying to distract you from everything else.
And how the hell did that guy call 911 and it went to a payphone that somebody happened to be at?
I guess that can be explained away with it's a supernatural location, so whatever. That doesn't really bug me. But yeah, Okay, this is where confusion sets in because initially I thought like these three people who were in the bar were like supposed to be survivors or something of whatever happened to this place. Because at the time I was still skeptical if this was supposed to be hell or whatever was going on. So I was like, whatever. And and yeah, like at first I thought like, oh, something weird happened to this place, and these are the guys like huddled up like together. It kind of gave me like a, I don't know if anyone else here has read Desperation by Stephen King, but it kind of gave me a feel like that, like these people were huddled away in this like messed up town that had like something happened to it, and they were supposed to be like survivors of it or whatever. But apparently not, because our main character, our actual main character for this short comes in, and he starts screaming randomly about his sister, pulls out a picture, and he's like screaming at people, and obviously they know what's going on because they were, I guess, part of the reason she's gone, but there's no audience surrogate here. Like, everybody already knows what's going on, and they're just yelling at each other about what's going on, so we don't really get an explanation as to who this guy is, why his sister's gone, who these people are, because yeah, he starts pointing a shotgun at them all, and they're acting like weird, and then like the big guy all of a sudden his hand transforms or something, and he gets up like he's gonna attack him, and then he gets his hand blown off, and he starts growling, and yeah, then nothing comes of it. He's just sitting there growling, and like the guy just walks out taking one of the guys hostage, and it's like, okay, what was that about? And
Yeah.
And yeah, so Danny is our main character here. And wait, hold on. Yeah, so he like takes the guy hostage, and the guy drives him off to like wherever his sister is supposed to be, and they go to this second building where they go around back, and all of a sudden all these guys, I can't remember if all of them have this tattoo or it was just him. This guy puts his hand up to his face, and he blinks with the tattoo, showing there's something weird with it.
Oh yeah.
And yeah, like he just starts getting beat up by this old guy with a shotgun. He doesn't even like try to fight back or anything. So it's like, okay, what's going on? And then the beat up scene proves to be for nothing, because the guy just opens this weird door for him anyway. And then here we come to another thing that confused me. So like, it's shown that the door can only be accessed by somebody who like can be seeing through this tattoo eye, and otherwise it just looks like a wall. So what I don't get is like, what did it look like for Danny when the guy opened this like door that can't be seen? Like, how
Yeah, I don't know.
Like, I don't understand how Danny got through this door then, but whatever. And then we go to this scene where like, oh, never mind. So we get to this scene where this guy's sister is like, he finds the guy's sister, and the girl comments like, "Oh, you've gotten much older than me" or something, and she's like doing tattoos for these people, and Danny starts trying to get her out, and then like kills the guy that led her there, the bartender, and he starts yanking her like by her arm, and they get into the truck and leave, and they get to the end of the road randomly in this truck, and she starts telling him like, "Oh, don't go out into the field or whatever," and he ignores her and drives off into the night. And we have this sequence of like the truck like running over bumpy road while she admits that she like killed her parents or something, and that's about
And that she liked the location she was in for some reason.
Yeah, she's like, I like where I ended up, which
She likes being in hell or something.
Yeah.
I guess that's supposed to be what's going on. I didn't really understand it at the time.
I believe
and
so.
I only vaguely understand it after the fact.
Yeah.
And then she starts
that's how
telling
I
him like, you shouldn't be here.
I just assumed it was like they were both in hell for some reason. She was just like, I like being in hell. That was her weird way of saying it.
And yeah, so Danny stops the truck and then gets yanked out by these like naked guys, and his sister just kind of like, they start tearing off his clothes, and like his sister like gets into the driver's seat and just drives off and leaves him out there in the middle of nowhere. And then that's pretty much the end.
Well, she did tell him, she was like, you should have left me back there.
So yeah, I don't know. I didn't really like that one. I think second only to the fact that the next one's supposed to be the closing. I thought definitely that was the weakest part of this movie.
Mm-hmm.
And it just seemed like really out of place, especially coming after like what was in my opinion, the best part. And then, so yeah, we come to the final stretch of the movie, which is called The Way In. And it features this family who's like going on vacation in the middle of the desert. For some reason, I don't know, that wouldn't be ideal for me, but whatever. And from what I remember, like, okay, let's see. Yeah, Gem. And yeah, it's telling the story of this teenage girl named Gem and her parents, Kate and Daryl. And, they're eating at the same restaurant that Jesse's, like, weird little secret place is in, the sister. And, yeah, they get in their car and they go to, like, their vacation house. And this is, like, her senior, going away gift or whatever. And, yeah, I liked the intro to this one. I felt like it started strong.
Definitely.
And, so yeah, it opens with the family, like they're in this kind of cozy little house in the desert. It didn't really fit to me, but whatever. And yeah, they're talking, like, they're getting ready for bed, and I think that and all of a sudden it turns into like a home invasion story. Like it pretty much turns into like a Strangers. I haven't seen Strangers, but from what I know about it, it pretty much turns into Strangers, and these guys have masks.
Even I brought up how the ending was such a ripoff.
Or like The Purge.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it felt like those movies where these guys in masks come in, and it's basically the whole segment is like the three people hiding while the three masked men start trying to look for them, and and then here comes the part that really bothers me, and what kind of like throughout the movie, I had a lot of patience with it. I was trying to give it the benefit of the doubt of most of the time. Xander pretty early on, I don't know, I guess he predicted it this time, but yeah, pretty early on he kind of gave up on it and lost his patience.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah.
And I don't know how Nathan felt about it by this point, but
I was, as the movie went on, I was more and more disappointed because I was just like, I don't get it. I don't get how this all comes together. And like, but I was trying really hard to give it a chance, unlike Xander. Because I remember Xander was there. He was like, "Oh, this sucks," and I was just like, "I'm trying to give up."
Oh, Jailbreak was the like after the third one, I was like, okay, I didn't really like that, but I can't say it was terrible. Then when Jailbreak came out, I was like, I don't give a shit.
That's pretty much my story. Like with the first one, I was confused. With the second one, I was like, okay, this isn't the best, but we're still kind of early on in the movie. I got hope. And then the accident comes in, the third one, and I really liked it. So I was like, okay, this is picking back up. It was kind of shaky at first, but this is nice. Then the fourth one was like kind of like, oh wow, that really.
What the hell just happened? The movie just completely changed into something else.
Yeah, and then this came by, and I thought like I had hope again because I really liked the first one. So I was like, okay, I guess that fourth one was just a dud. And then yeah, this happens, and this is where I kind of lost my patience with the movie, and I was like, okay, I don't like this. I don't like where this went, or no, not even where it went. It didn't go anywhere is my problem.
Yeah.
The robbers, they tie up Jem's parents, and they weren't robbers, they're just intruders, but the intruders tie up Jem's parents, and the guy and one of the people with the mask holds up a picture who I didn't recognize at the time, but yeah, it's the same picture that one of the guys at the beginning yeah, Jack was holding earlier, or no, it might have been Mitch. I think it was Mitch. That Mitch was holding at the beginning of the movie, and I didn't notice that at the time. And they don't explain it. They just show, like, Jem's dad, Daryl. Mitch just shows this picture to Daryl, and Daryl starts flipping out, and the wife seems really confused. And, yeah, the other intruder leans over and whispers something into her ear. We don't get to hear it. And she starts crying about it. And then, like, yeah, they don't, before they can say anything to even hint at what the problem is, they get killed. And then, like,
riveting.
Yeah. And then another thing that was kind of weird, I don't understand what the point of this part was, but before I think they kill their parents, Jem is about to attack one of the intruders, she's trying to get out of the house, and one of the intruders are about to attack her. But then, like, I think Daryl calls out and he's like, "No, please, she's not involved in this," and they surprisingly let her go. And she runs off into the desert while they're just like, I guess they decide she isn't their problem. And yeah,
Which now that I think about it,
isn't the nothing because she comes back and attacks them, and then they kill her anyway. So I didn't really get that.
There's a lot of surprisingly letting people go. The guy in the abandoned hospital in the last one. Well, I guess not surprisingly, but Danny gets killed and Jesse just gets to drive off.
Wait, did anyone get let go in the second one? Because actually, if that's the case, and in every one, one person gets let go.
I don't think anyone got let go in
the girl who got hit.
Well, Sadie got out of the second one, but was the victim of the third one, so it didn't.
Yeah.
And then Lucas gets let go in the
That's
third
right.
one, and
somebody gets let go.
It did surprise me. Like, I didn't really think. Usually in horror movies, like, if somebody's let go, there's a twist to it. But like, apparently Lucas, like, unless you believe that he's gonna repeat anything anyway, he got let off pretty scot-free. Like, sure, it was probably traumatic for him, but he got out of it, which is better than you can say for pretty much anyone else in the movie. And then well, obviously with this girl, she got let off at first, but then like, she comes back after her parents get killed. She just gets killed anyway, so I didn't really see the point in having. I guess it was a hope spot, but she just gets killed anyway. And
Let Out of a Loop is what this movie should have been called.
Yeah, I just realized I haven't been changing the slides. Yeah, so, and then this, like, mind fuck. What were you about to say?
I see if there was, was there always one person that, like, kind of, like, connects? I don't know, because I'm reading through them, and if what it sounds like is that there's always somebody that gets off in the last one and then continues on to the next one. Is that what it is? Okay.
Yeah. Actually,
but are they always the victim? Are they always the victim?
Because Mitch... Yeah, no, I didn't think this applied to the first one, but now I kind of realize it does because Mitch was let off. Like, Jack was killed by the creatures, but then they didn't kill Mitch. They just allowed him to drive off. And then, like, something happens to him in the motel that they don't explain or whatever, but, he gets his. And then, in the second
and then
one,
it follows.
The girls... Yeah, Sadie gets out of the cult problem, but then gets killed in the third one. Where Lucas drives off and is the one that's let go in the third one, but... It doesn't really link at all to the fourth one. Again, the fourth one's like the weird one that doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, because if Jailbreak connected perfectly, like honestly, if Jailbreak connected perfectly, it would actually explain the movie a lot better. Because then it would just be like, okay, so everybody involved in this, like, because like on the pentagram on the poster, that's 5, so there's 5 different cars driving around on each edge. And it would mean that they're all looping around because Mitch and Jack, they drive away going to, loop to the first plot. So it would be like they're reliving the same hell over and over.
Spoiler!
Well,
okay, I'm sorry, but
we're at the end of the movie anyway, so it's whatever.
Get my point.
Well, yeah, but no, I don't really count Jessie because, like, she wasn't really a victim. She was in on what was going on with that story. So
yeah,
like, I don't really count that as being like a let go, and then it continues on to like the next story. She just kind of like she meets with Jem for like a second, and then I think
but it says Jailbreak. I think she was in jail, and Danny came and brought her out, and now she's free from jail.
That's
No, because she goes back to the same place that he dragged her out of willingly.
Then maybe
she goes back there.
Yeah,
like
the same place that Jem and her family are eating at. Is the back wall to that place leads to the area where where Danny broke in to save Jesse. So yeah, she wasn't like in jail. It's not like she had any character change at all. Like, she went from staying there and being, willing to stay there or whatever, to like just going back after Danny dies. So nothing really changed there. I don't know. Like, it was kind of, again, like, it almost worked, but it didn't. Which is the story of this movie, pretty much.
It's a little off, yeah.
Yeah, I have actually something to say about that, but yeah, let's finish weigh in.
Yes, let's.
Sorry,
Hello?
I forgot I had my mute button clicked here. So yeah, so they kill Jem, the girl, and they take off their masks, and I realized this about like 10 seconds before they revealed it. So, and you know, I didn't really know about the picture, and I can't remember exactly how I figured it out, but I don't know. It actually might have been because of the picture. I don't really remember. But yeah, I figured out it was Jack and Mitch, and then they took off their masks, and it's Jack and Mitch, along with some third guy that was with them, who just ends up getting killed by whatever happens next. This part was just so confusing to me. Like, the creatures that we see in the first segment, the mossy things we were talking about when we started this, they come out of the bodies of these three people. With like, they don't explain why.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
What they are. They don't explain like why they were in these three people, or if they were.
Yeah, like what the hell?
Like they just they start coming out of the ground, and the ground starts eroding, and you know, they end up snatching like Mitch and Jack's friend and dragging him down, and Mitch and Jack get into their truck.
Oh yeah.
Or drive away to escape them, which obviously the movie closes with, you know, Jack.
Did you mention the part when?
Fuck. You know, and then that's how the movie opens, and then we get more dialogue from,
Wait.
you know, Mr. DJ. Oh, you're shinner.
It makes me wait. Maybe this is a really stupid thing to comment on, but I don't know. Maybe you can be explained to me. But what I didn't understand about the whole, according to this, it's the ground to hell opens up. Wait, aren't they already in hell? Why would they be dragging them down to where they already are? That doesn't make any sense.
They're going to second hell.
I'm still iffy on like if
The whole
this-
hell
what
thing.
Yeah, like I don't really know. Again, it's another thing left up to interpretation. Part of me thinks like I don't really want to accept that because that just feels like the obvious answer of what's going on.
Hold on, but I don't think in the last one. I don't think you explained. You said that Jem was let off, but then she comes back, and that's how the third guy gets killed. She comes back and attacks him with a
So
knife.
many weird plot holes. I can't even piece them together.
Like, well, no, he doesn't. The third like intruder that's with them. That again, you know, big problem. They don't explain why Jack and Mitch and this friend are like after these two people. We know it has something to do with Mitch's daughter that we see as a little girl in the first segment. They don't explain what. You know, they just insinuate something happened. And again, like I said earlier, I'm fine with interpretation, but give us something. Like, there was just nothing to that at all to draw from that we were supposed to insinuate. So yeah, that for the sake of that being supposedly the end of the movie and how it was supposed to resolve everything, I think that's pretty much worse than Jailbreak, because it's like this was supposed to explain things at least a little bit, and it was just a messy tie-in to the first one to where everything had to match up. And yeah, randomly the third guy trips and gets dragged down and killed to explain why he's not with Mitch and Jack by the time Way Out starts. So, but yeah, Xander, what were you about to say? Like I forgot something.
What was I gonna say? Oh, I was just going to. I did want to make a mention of like, I will want to explain if we do a VHS in the future, the movie that came before this one by the company. What I do want to say is I do want to explain there in pretty good detail why that works and this doesn't, specifically in the way that this plays out as an anthology film, and why VHS just works on a much better scale, bigger scale.
Yeah. And yeah, that's how the movie ends pretty much. And
Yeah, Mitch and Jack drive away, and then, you know, they pull up to the gas station and back to the way out, the beginning.
Now, what I was going to say earlier on how this could have been a lot better in my eyes, because I feel like this had so many, like, coulda worked in it, but just didn't.
Yeah,
Something
too many.
I think could have really worked with this in this movie's favor is if it wasn't a movie, but if it was like a mini series or something.
Definitely.
That way you could stretch it out to about the length of like, you know, 3 or 4 movies, but it be in episodes or something. That way you can clearly explain, or not even clearly explain, like if you want to be kind of vague, be vague, but at least build up characters a little bit more. Build up this world so we understand it a little bit more. because I'm just like all of this condensed to what was the running time again?
Like an hour and a.
Too long.
It's 89 minutes, but.
Okay, so that's hour and 29. Yeah, under an hour and a half. Unless, yeah, no, that's right. Under an hour and a half to condense like this 5-story plot that's supposed to connect, and it just
And yeah,
it
all I
felt
got from it was that everything looped. It's all about looping. That's all the movie's about, and there wasn't really an explanation behind anything. That was it. Looping.
Another thing.
The whole purpose.
The another big thing. This is what I noticed actually while I was watching the movie. Like what I feel like might have happened behind the scenes. Again, I don't know. I'm not a director. I'm not a producer of this movie. Whatever. But what I do wonder is maybe like they were looking originally, because I'm reading from the concept, like they had a genuine concept. They were very intrigued by this. I'm wondering if maybe it was put through the wrong company, and like maybe somebody behind the scene, whoever like just trying to produce this,
Ruined it.
tinkered with it and tried to make it very Hollywood horror, because that seemed to very intertwine with it. It didn't really have. It could have worked as an indie film, like more of an indie film. But it seemed like they were going more of the route in the middle of the producing of the film to make it very cliche, which just sort of ruins the whole like intriguing symbolism that they were trying to pull off in the movie, it seems. And that's like the biggest problem. Like that's why it came out so confusing. They were going, and then they just stopped to make something really lackluster. And that's just why I don't like this movie.
Oh, now, one thing I wanted to ask is, so, you know, obviously from the first segment, it leads into the second one, which leads into the third, leads into the fourth, leads into the fifth, which then goes back to the first. So I'm wondering, where exactly is the loop? Like, where exactly is it starting over? I mean, I guess that doesn't really matter, but just something to think about.
I would assume, like, what do you mean? Like, why? I would assume it's end of
Like,
5, beginning of 1. Like, what do you mean?
Yeah.
Or no, another thing I didn't really understand is, like, is the loop for everybody sans Lucas who got out?
Well, no, like what I'm saying is in the first one, it starts off and we don't know a lot, but then the fifth one is kind of like a prequel to the first. So that happened before, but where was the end of?
Are you saying how they got to where they got to?
That's a good point.
How it got back to the beginning.
That is really weird, actually.
It's weird. Loop is confusing.
Something had to happen to put them into this loop, to put Jack and Mitch into the loop, because clearly whatever.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
His daughter happened out of the loop, but like we don't know how long they've been in their loop. Like obviously with Lucas, like we can only infer like he's only been through the loop once, maybe. But with everyone else, it's kind of left like I don't know.
Also leads to the problem of, like, I know this is a very generic thing to really bring up, honestly, but why these specific people are in this loop together? Like, you'd think for like the afterlife hell, you know, there'd be a lot more to the loop. Like, it would be kind of creepy if it looped back to like a whole bunch of people. Like, it's an endless cycle of like millions of people, and like that would be an interesting twist that we're watching a loop. Like, we're like kind of in the middle, like not a quarter, but just like a little section of what is going on in hell. That would be really creepy, but it's more of just like these specific people on this highway. It's like, why?
Well, maybe it's like, hold on, let me think around. So maybe it's like, I'm trying to think if they explain why every certain person would be there according to the hell theory. Because like, I guess with Jack and Mitch, they're there because they killed, you know, this fifth family in revenge. The second story, there's this whole Alex thing, which they don't understand, but they insinuate that, like, it's Sadie's fault for some reason, so maybe that's why she's there. With Lucas, I don't understand at all. Like, it just kind of randomly happens. I don't know why he could.
He hit the girl. Well, no, he was on his phone while he was driving, and then he hit a girl.
Yeah.
And almost killed her.
Maybe like.
So he went to hell. But then he got a second chance.
Yeah. And then, like, I think, I don't know, I don't really understand what Danny did, but I think the whole explanation that I read on, like, the fourth one was that, like, it wasn't Danny's, like, doing that got him there. Like, he intentionally went there to save the actual person who got dragged there, Jesse, but the twist being that Jesse was dragged there and didn't take it badly, whereas Danny had to force his way into this loop to go and get her, and then it didn't end good for him. With the fifth story...
Could it be that, I was just gonna I put a little theory, I don't know if it's obvious or not, but it could have been like he took his own life to find his sister.
I don't think he died prior.
But it would make sense. Like she says she likes it there, and she asks, "Why are you here?" Could be that he killed himself to go there.
I don't really know. I don't really know why he would do that, because I don't really know to what end. Like he would kill himself to go save her, but like how would he get back out if he killed himself? It just doesn't really seem to make sense. Or like, yeah, why Danny of all people knows about apparently the inner workings of this loop. Like, what is the relevance of Danny? Like, who is he? Again, if this was an expanded story, maybe we could open him up a little bit more and he could talk, like, have an audience surrogate that he either explains a little bit to, at least, you know, somewhat about, like, why. I don't really know.
Curious.
And then with the fifth story, I guess it's implied that, like, the father did something to Mitch's daughter, and that's the reason he and his family are wrapped up in this. So maybe that's it. I don't know. It would kind of fit everything together, but it's not explained enough. Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
But like we say, maybe there is a proper explanation that we just don't get yet.
Yeah,
but then again, yeah, but we can't. But we can still put in our criticism, because the fact that it is so vague is a valid criticism, because you want the audience to have fun with the ride as well. And when it's like so vague to the point where you can't even really say anything about it, like you want to discuss it, but it's just like, as you can see right now, we have, you know, struggle. We're just sort of left in silence in some of this stuff because we just don't really understand it.
Right.
Kind of, you know, kind of disappointing. But I don't know.
Yeah, actually, hang on. Let me look this up real quick. VHS. Well, no, not VHS. I mean movie.
An interesting film, but I can't.
Oh, absolutely.
It's not a good. I wouldn't say it's a good film, but hey, that's just.
Radio silence. Okay, just making sure. Yeah, I think like the problem with this is like with radio silence, like they did what they did. Like they were very good at doing what they did with VHS 1 and 2. I really like those movies. I'm willing to admit, and I'll say this and that whenever we cover those movies too, I have a little bit of a bias towards found footage horror. I really like those movies, so you know sometimes I'm a little bit blinded by that, because with VHS 3, you know I didn't really hate it as much as like a lot of people do. Like I understand what was kind of wrong with it, and I'm sure I'll understand more when we talk more in depth about it. But yeah, I feel like they tried to do what they did with VHS series to this, because, you know, make it horror anthology. But, like, when they took away the elements they were comfortable with, like, instead of making it found footage, it's just a normally shot movie. Instead of making it, like, random stories that are only connected through a meta viewer, they tried to make the stories directly connected. I feel like that's where they went wrong. They removed elements that they were good and comfortable with, and it didn't work in the end. It kind of felt like VHS, but elements were taken out to where it just felt awkward.
Actually, yeah, if we're going to talk about that, can I actually bring up my reasoning that I wasn't going to explain it before, but I guess maybe I should just do it now.
For
this to VHS, why VHS worked and this didn't.
Oh yeah, go ahead.
Personally.
Yeah.
I think VHS worked on a sort of. It worked in its ambiguity. Sorry, I can't talk. The fact that it's very subtle, like the fact that you don't know what's going on. You know, like if any of you guys have seen VHS, you know that they don't explain anything, but it doesn't try to. It's not trying to mean something. Trying to have a deep symbolic thing. And usually I like that in movies, but for VHS, it's scary because it leaves you like not knowing what you just watched.
I think it overall is a story. I mean, the parts that aren't the VHS tapes, there's a story
say
behind that, and it's pretty obvious.
But I wouldn't say
what
that's
it's
the
about.
purpose, though. It's just a way to like connect it, which is fair. But it's not the purpose. When you try to give it a purpose, like they do in Southbound, it just comes off as they're trying to tell a story, they're trying to be symbolic, but it's distracted by a bunch of nonsense that doesn't really add up. It's just a bunch of plot holes, and it just comes confusing. While VHS has the excuse of it's just trying to have a good time, it's just trying to entertain the audience, give them a good spook. That's all good, and it works because it's found footage. It's creepy like that. But
the thing
Southbound,
that works with the VHS stories, like individually, like per movie, like let's just say we were just talking about VHS 2. The thing that works about each story in that movie would be that one, they're not trying to link to each other, so they don't have to worry about like, oh man, we can't do things with this segment that it causes plot holes in other ones. Each story is just its own thing. It doesn't have to collude with other ones. And the way they did it, at least in the first 2 VHS movies, is they told a cohesive story, from beginning, middle, and end. And in that short time, they were able to give us like a good theme, the tone of the thing, and it worked. With this, it just like, I don't know. Like, it had to conform to the other stories, and like in the back of their heads, the writers and directors and whatever had to think like, okay, we need to link this with everything else, and then it just kind of came out as like a lackluster, it was a lackluster story for that reason.
Yeah, and near the beginning, the quality of the film still pretty good. I mean, it looks very, very professional, but yeah, like that's really it though for me when it comes to that.
True.
Hey Matthew, where have you been?
I've been sitting here because I didn't really have anything to talk about since I didn't watch it.
What do you think of the movie?
Well, I didn't watch it yet, but from what you guys have been saying, it's pretty disappointing and not good.
Yeah.
Yep.
It was pretty disappointing.
And not very good.
Like, if they took out the 4th part, then... Well,
yeah, it could have worked as a short film, or like a good mini-series.
It was a short film.
By the way, can I just say, I kind of wanted to talk about the 3rd part of the movie, but it kind of, like...
You can go ahead, just so you add
you can
something
talk
if you
about
want. This is like kind of the...
Well, no, I was going to talk about... I was going to talk about, like, the summary of the 3rd part, like, the plot of it.
What about
it? Like, explain what it was about when we were, like, talking about it. I don't know.
Oh, well.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. I guess in summary, it wasn't the worst thing I've seen. It was just a lot of it distracted me as far as like, the issues we've talked about tonight. And it's just, I don't know. I feel like, again, this could have been better if it explained things better, or if it had a longer, runtime to work with. But yeah, that's my closing thoughts. Xander, Nathan, if you have anything else to say as a whole about the movie.
Yeah. Well, my wrapped up thoughts is not angry or upset that I saw it, but I'm not the movie either.
They tried to do another VHS thing where they could loop a bunch of different stories together, but they did it in a very different way, and it just didn't work.
Yeah, it's like, give
Don't
them
do
props,
it again.
They tried something new. That's all good. You got to try new things. Whatever sticks, just stay with that. But yeah, clearly this was just not the way to go, and a lot of people agree with that. But yeah.
Yep.
That's all I really got to say about this film now.
So yeah, I definitely encourage you. I'd say it's worth your time. Formulate your own opinion. If you agree or not, I definitely recommend the movie. Maybe, possibly you'll understand it better and it'll work for you, and that's just fine. Which, give props to Radio Silence for making the movie, giving us something to talk about, and, it was, like Xander said, like, it wasn't really a waste of our time. It was just kind of like...
No.
Yeah.
It wasn't impressive. I don't know. It wasn't, there were flaws that, we had more of a time pointing them out than actually enjoying the movie, which was unfortunate.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so yeah,
I recommend the movie just as an experience, and you can maybe just if you do see the movie, possibly comment your what you theorize or how you analyze the film, your opinion. We'd love to hear that as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, I guess if that's it, thank you for tuning in tonight. I hope we were able to entertain you, enlighten you about the movie if you've already seen it, or encourage you to go see it if you haven't. And yeah, that about wraps it up. Now, like I said earlier, we're going to be taking a hiatus after this episode for a while because I'm going to be graduating and going to my dad's and such. So I'd say maybe about 3 weeks before we move on to episode 4, where we're going to be talking about a very recently popular horror game that I know at least Stove has a lot to talk about, so he will be back for that episode, and
hopefully,
yeah, and we'll try and start earlier so more people can be involved, and yeah, that's about it. Thanks for watching, and good night.
No.
Bye.
Perfect.
Okay. Yeah, that was a good practice run.
Yeah, hang
good.
on. Let me look up what this guy sounds like before we start the episode. Hang on, I gotta.
All right. Cool.
Okay, hold on. All right. God, this is so dumb. Yeah, I'm gonna rip into this when we actually start. So.
We're not gonna say anything good about this movie at the end of this. There's nothing.
No, that was
nothing.
Shitty movie.
5, 4, 3.
Wait, is everybody ready?
Yeah.
Yeah. But
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.